Jagamana Maestro Papa, Professor Dr. Language Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada ki, not for the Vaishnava ki, not for the Harinatma Koti, not for the Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Shri Gaur Bhakti ki, Shri Krishna Prabhu Nasham Pranarpan Giri Gaurang ki, Shri Shri Nindam ki, Ram ki, Ayodhya Kshetra Ram ki, Jagat Ram ki, Raghuman ki, Raghuman ki, Rasi Maharan ki, Kamaya Bhaktivedanta ki, O Lord, System of Working Hare Krishna, O Lord, System of Working Hare Krishna, O Lord, System of Working Hare Krishna, O Lord, Shri Guru, Shri Guru, O Lord, Shri
Namaste Narasimhaya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Sodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Natira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Ya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay. So I'd like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees before I begin speaking on today's verse. We're reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh. Om Jnana Tirmayandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakchurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutaye Svayam Rupa Kadadmayam Dadatisva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavetam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Kan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamani Mami Hari Pre Vancha Kalpa Drubascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutaye Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Praschatya Desatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it's on chapter 3, text 2. Vyamis re van, so the Sanskrit. Vyamis re reneva vyakyena buddham mohan yesva me tad ekim vada nischitya yena streyoham apnuyam. So Vyamis reneva vyakyena buddham moha yesva me tad ekam vada nischaya yena streyoham apnuyam. So Vyamis reneva vakyena buddhe moha yasiva me tad ekam vada nischaya yena streyoham apnuyam. Okay. Yasiva me tad ekam vada nischaya yena streyoham apnuyam. So, and the translation: my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. And the purport. In the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without fruit of desire, and the position of the neophyte. This was all presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. So in His Grace Burjan Prabhu, or Burjan Das, in his book Surrender Unto Me, he has commented, Arjuna misunderstanding as incompatible the parts of karma, which is spiritual advancement through work, and jnana, the attempt usually through renounced, secluded meditation to discern oneself as an eternal soul, different from the body. So Arjuna misunderstanding as incompatible the paths of karma and jnana, requests, Tad Ekam Veda, please tell me only one thing. Srila Prabhupada's purport explains, although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. So there's as it goes, there's many different ways to approach God, and there's in the Bhagavad Gita it's described as the yoga ladder. So they deal mainly with karma yoga, jnana yoga, and then bhakti yoga. So in terms of karma yoga, it's to a certain extent it can't be on its own without jnana yoga. Two of them are actually relying on each other. So if one has to do work with some knowledge, and then also there's jnana yoga where one has the knowledge, or is on the path of knowledge, but they must do some action also. So this is after Krishna has mentioned all these different ways of karma yoga and jnana yoga. He has confused Arjuna that he wants just to have the real understanding. But also it's bhakti yoga, and bhakti yoga is the same as was mentioned also as buddha yoga. So it's all devotional service. So there's different ways of approaching Krishna. So they say there's 4 types of people approach Krishna, and these are categorized as the desires of wealth, the materially exhausted, and those who are inquisitive and those who are after searching for the absolute truth. So these are the ones who approach Krishna. The best of these is the one who's in search of just pure knowledge. The others are due to more circumstantial. But there's also those who don't approach Krishna also. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita that ones don't actually come into contact with Krishna, and to be led different ways that Krishna won't manifest in their lives, or the mercy won't, through either Krishna's representatives or the devotee, that due to having envy in their heart, they'll be led on a certain path where they naturally won't take to Krishna consciousness. They won't receive the mercy. It's also described as, in terms of one who has built up that enough pious credits. It's mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion that one who has built up enough pious credits over many lifetimes, well then, in due course of time, they become eligible to receive the mercy. But the reason is that this envy is that the root cause of man's existence in the material world. The jivas are is known as envious. So it's described that due to this conditioning, even the senses, they're so conditioned for sense gratification that they have a natural repulsion, even to when they visit a temple, a holy place, or in terms of reading Shastra, it's not something that the senses initially find gratifying. So even there's an aversion at this stage. So it's also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita that due to these attachments and aversions, one has to become free from attachment and aversion to actually take up to the path. So it says in text 11, chapter 9, Avagyanati mam muda manusim tanum asritam param bhavam ajananto mam bhutva bhuta mahesvaram. And translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So due to this envy in the material world, the living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. So Krishna is he's the original, he's the father, and he's the supreme enjoyer and proprietor. So unnaturally, the living entities in this world are inclined to think themselves the enjoyers and the proprietors. But Krishna says in this verse, they do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So it's mentioned that Krishna is the supreme dominion over all that is. So in this world we can see, it was, as we mentioned actually on Monday, after Srila Prabhupada's lecture, that every individual, they're seeking to be the controllers, and there's always division. So in Kali Yuga there's division within ourselves. So then naturally there's division within communities, extending larger to nations, and so it's nations against nations. So this comes from the view of wrong identification, that they're naturally identified with a certain area, a certain community, a certain type of body, skin color, all these different things that they actually think of themselves and their own kind. So naturally, this is wrong for the planet. That it's a very much a divided world, and so we know that everything belongs to Krishna, and everything is actually Krishna's property. So everything that we have in our lives has to be ultimately honored through Krishna. And the time we have, the food we eat has to be offered to Krishna, and so on and so forth. So it says in chapter 4, text 11, Ye yata mam prapadyante tamste tateva bhajamyam mama vart manu vartante manusya partasarvasaha. And translation: all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Partha. So naturally, everyone is serving Krishna in one respect, whether it's his external energy or his internal energy. So this verse is also is very interesting, as is mentioned that in terms of the fate of a particular individual, this fate is developed by what is in their heart. So, based on the desires in the heart, the fate is given so they can actually enjoy through the desires which are actually present there, that whatever circumstances or whatever they believe in is they're given faith in that due to their conditioning. It's being facilitated by the Supreme Lord. So naturally, all these different groups and different people within the world, they are given a particular faith in something where that's where the realization is due to their heart, and this is the what they have been rewarded due to their level of surrender or conditioning. They have a certain amount of faith in whether it's material identification or spiritual realization. But obviously, it's the difference is that, as is mentioned in chapter 5, text 22, Yehi samsparsa ja boga dunka yoneya evate adi yan tavantaha kunteya natesu ramate buddhaya. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So that's naturally what you have to develop, is the intelligence, which in terms of Krishna consciousness means the power of discrimination between spirit and matter. So Krishna gives the science of this in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. So in the first two texts of this, it mentions about the field, the nature, and it gives us an idea of what is actually happening here in terms of the material body, and why individuals are given a certain faith in a certain process. As we can see, Arjuna is clearly bewildered in terms of he doesn't understand the sequence of this, what Krishna has said, or there is no actual sequence. It has to be clarified as to why one would take to a particular path and what is the ideal path. So it says, Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusam cheva setram setra ganam evacha etad viditum ichami Gyanam Gyanyam cha Kesava Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Edam Sariram Kunteya Setram Ityabi Diyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu Shetragna Ititadvida. Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusa, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the end of knowledge. The Blessed Lord then said, This body of Sonakunti is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So it goes on to describe in terms of the Prakriti, the nature, that we are covered over by, in terms of Krishna's inferior nature, our senses, which are ultimately they're feeding the mind, and the mind is ultimately feeding the intelligence, and the intelligence is beyond that is the soul, the false ego, and it's the soul. So, due to one's particular pious credits, they'll achieve a certain kind of faith. So what one has in their heart will determine their future. And ultimately what is, as it was mentioned at the weekend, is one's present. One's present is one's future in that sense, as what is their goal and what is their desire. So if one is not renounced and seeking basically sense gratification, naturally these will arise where they will be given faith and in something which is ultimately not spiritual. But so this, in terms of Arjuna, he's naturally surrendered unto Krishna, and he's coming to Krishna consciousness. So in terms of devotees who have actually got the most precious gift, which is the mercy of the devotees, and who have come to the stage of bhakti, naturally they're going to start from a more conditioned nature. So it's very interesting, which is mentioned. Just doing some research on this about ones who are, naturally there's a chance of fall down, but it's acceptable to a certain degree because it's different than the sense gratification of a karmi. So it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 42, in the purport. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul, and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness, by complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger, and even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, they will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. And it's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 19, in the purport. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of material existence because he is rasa graha, or one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association, just like fruitive workers who are always prone to degradation. But even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi suffers as a result of his own fruitive reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord himself. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. The orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruitive workers. The fruitive workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself. As a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia, By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, so he comes to his senses again, by the mercy of the Lord, and is set right to execute his devotional service. So therefore, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 7, Tasmat sarvesu kalesu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayam arpita manobudhir mam evasyasi asamseya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So, for those who, in terms of the neophyte devotees, or in anyone who is taken to the path of devotional service, naturally, the goal is to come to the stage of goodness. And as we come to the stage of goodness, naturally we will, just in due course of time, it's a fixed state where we will ultimately transcend onto Satguna. So, in terms of the body itself, actually, it mentions, which is very interesting, that it becomes purified. It is mentioned in chapter 14, text 11. So, Sarva dvaresu dehismin prakasa upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vridiham sattva ityuta. The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. There are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genital, and the anus. In every gate, when the symptom of goodness is illuminated, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position, one can hear things in the right position, and one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate there is development of the symptoms of happiness, and that is the position of goodness. So as is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, that is significant of the blowing of the conch shells, that the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra is described as shattered. So naturally, if we have Krishna on our side, well, then it's the sign of victory. Also, as it mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, that my devotee never perishes. So naturally, we will take up onto devotional service again in our next life, or after, in terms of a fall down. The stages of fall down are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 268 and 269, but which progresses from there, envy. Well, first of all, contemplation, which leads on ultimately to attachment, and progresses to a fall down. But in terms of what I was speaking about earlier, about the state of this world, and that the way this world is divided, that Krishna is actually the supreme, has supreme dominion over everything, and everything has to be treated as Krishna's, it's property of Krishna. But it's interesting also it says in the Bible, actually, Psalms 32:12. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. So it says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. So this is very, very striking, actually, that it means the true way in terms of these divisions, and that we need actually a monarchy of a saintly leader, and the path of Krishna consciousness, or ones who are, in terms of Aryans, it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, who know the true value of life, in terms of a culture that is seeking spiritual realization. So thank you very much for listening to today's class, and Hare Krishna.